position. That is the role of the media. That is what the media's role should be. But unfortunately, what has happened is, over a period, media has become sensational. I remember when I started out 2 decades ago, it was always, we were told that, please, you don't practice yellow journalism. I think today, the word yellow journalism is not there anymore, or white journalism. It is all yellow journalism. Now, I think we have to tell youngsters, please practice white journalism. It has come to that. And we are laying too much of emphasis on the media, print, broadcast, for absolutely no reason. We need not give the media so much of importance. At the same time, we are letting them just do what they feel like because of this importance we are giving them. So, I basically feel that the Prime Minister making a statement, such a statement, is the fact that he is overpowered or scared by the media, and this is his creation. This monster is not his. I mean, it is the government, it's the people at the top places. They are creating these monsters. So it is not just the problem of the media, it is the problem of the government, of the Prime Minister. And I will pass it on to Mike.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Bijay Ketan Misra, Resident Editor of the Political and Business Daily. And I am thankful to the organizers that they have given me an opportunity here to speak about this role of media in conflict and resolutions. First of all, let me say why media is so important and why Prime Minister thought that media should be covered properly, or media should play its role properly. There is no statute or no rule in India, no law in India. Of course, India being the only country in the world with exception to England, where one doesn't find any statute or any law that curbs media freedom. Media has got its freedom from right to speech, freedom of speech enshrined in our constitution. So I completely differ with the Prime Minister's view that media is going berserk or media has gone beyond its brief. So whenever any individual's freedom of speech or any individual goes beyond his power given to him by freedom of speech, he is liable to be prosecuted. So if media has derived this power from that clause of Indian Constitution, so media can be prosecuted against any particular media house if it is doing anything wrong. So why not prosecute that particular media house? I somehow do not believe in Prime Minister's fear or apprehension. But one thing I must tell here, that in England, the process has already started to go for a legislation to throttle media freedom. Okay. We'll go to that later. Okay, thank you.
The first thing I would like to say is that media is, of course, very powerful. And we can all understand why the Prime Minister is sore with the media. We understand that. Lampooning was limited to a cartoon corner earlier in newspapers. Now it's open and brazen lampooning of the Prime Minister on a daily basis by the media. Obviously, old man is very hurt, and that's why I had said so. But glossing over that, I would say that media is indeed very powerful. I mean, by media, it's a very broad and umbrella term that includes the print media, the electronic media, and also I would very strongly advocate in favor of Facebook and Twitter and all, social media as such, as part of the media also, because it's free for all, which is almost a Frankenstein in the making, but you can't, this is technology, and information technology, the revolution that has taken place, has made things very difficult for the politicians, and politicians can manage maybe 10 newspaper houses, maybe 5 or 10 channels. They can't control the social media. And when I think the Prime Minister is referring to the media, he is also including the social media, which has gone very critical about the government, especially the ruling party. So, but the fact is, media is powerful, but media doesn't run according to your wishes and desires. People may have several concepts of what media is and what media should do. Unfortunately, media today is big business, and there is very little scope for ethics and so-called morality. Whichever fetches you more money is okay. If there is, it is said that if it bleeds, then it leads. The headlines, we are all the time looking to be one up in this entire game where there is, very stiff competition among channels and among newspapers have any kind of authority to decide what the media should do or not do.
Okay, I think the general view of the panelists is that media is powerful. It's not something marginal, so anyone, be it politicians or anyone else, can actually ignore the role of the media, what they are doing. But if that's the reality, then the next question that Ajay posed some time ago, how do we assess the role of the media, the print media and the television media? We're just confining the debate to print and television because social media will come later. Print and television media, the mainstream print and television media, how are they faring? Are they really doing well as per the expectations? Or are they actually awfully lacking in performing the role that they ought to do? Or is it their role falls in between, not in black and white, but maybe in shades of grey? I will again invite the reactions of our panel.
Well, if you look at the role, what we see today, what we've seen in the last decade at least, let's take the last decade, we won't go beyond that. There's definitely a certain ethics lacking in the media. One of the reasons, and we're sticking to the mainstream media as we decided, one of the main, as he said that Mr. Sampath said that there was this competition between. Earlier there were 2 channels or 3 channels. So there was definitely one channel, the other acting as a watchdog. Now it is breaking news, selling headlines, selling stories, and at whatever cost, one-upman. So therefore, what happens is the media, the television media barely bothers to verify the news. Even the print today, even bother to recheck the facts, and it's always from reliable sources, according to, and these sources and things are always debatable. So these are the things, they are not responsible. Media is not doing it's not taking responsibility, and it is, at the times, political or soft, whether it is mainstream political reporting or whether it is social reporting, soft features, they normally tend to hit below the belt. And as we all, whether in this fact that I'm part of the media, in the last decade or so, media has been very easily bought over. And I have seen it within my fraternity, within, close quarters, and how they've been bought over. It's not just, you leave it to some top TV, television channels or media, newsprint. Even a small reporter is bought over. So the corruption starts at the grassroots level. And therefore it affects the morality that we have started out with. The integrity is hardly there. So that is what I feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think media is the scarecrow of the society. And we should not get so much scared of the scarecrow. And the time has also not come to apprehend that a scarecrow has started eating the crop. So the kind of fear, the apprehension that is being raised everywhere, that media has gone beyond its brief. Media, due to competitions among themselves, are violating all forms of ethics. I somehow do not subscribe to this type of thinking. So in my view, as our topic suggests today, media, conflict and resolution, I must say the gentleman sitting left to me on the dais, he is responsible for resolving two very important conflicts in our state when he went and released two Italian hostages from Naxalites in Pulwani district. And he was also involved in releasing police officials of G. Udayagiri when they were also taken as hostages by Naxalites. So media is playing its role quite successfully whenever it is required to come to the rescue of administration or rescue of the government. Media has also played its role very effectively in the state. I distinctly remember when Mr. Biju Patnaik was the Chief Minister of the state, there was a move to convert that entire Puri Konarak beautiful sea beach into hotels and resorts. And there was a huge media hype against that move, and it was stalled after media took up the issue quite vehemently. So as and when required, media has come to the rescue of the society. Media has taken up many important issues, as a result of which industrialists, businessmen, politicians, they have been obstructed from going berserk or taking decisions which would have gone against the society or against the state, or against the country. Thank you.
There is no denying that media has had a very, very constructive role to play, and he has cited a number of instances. We all know that media has a very important role to play, and it has played the role pretty well. Now, when I refer to the cutthroat competition, I refer to the recent cases which you all have followed over television and maybe through newspapers you have come across, the kind of race that is taking place in India for more readership, for TRP ratings and things like that. So sometimes it's become quite irresponsible on the part of certain channels, certain newspapers, certain individuals. We have noticed irresponsible behavior, I would say. But then, we are people, I say I am 58 and so I am used to, the test match variety of cricket. It is 2020 now. And we, people in my generation feel completely outdated by what is happening. So that is, I am sharing a sense of pain in me as a journalist, where I think that, it's not important. It's not, I as a journalist, I don't think I'm very important, because it is the editorial policy. It is the policy pursued by my house that is more important than what I think about a particular case. So basically, this kind of competition, which I'm referring to, is not between two journalists. It is happening across the board, and everybody is trying to outsmart the other, breaking news or breaking heads, whatever it is. These things have become the order of the day. And that is something which has to raise, that raises a number of questions in our mind, in the mind of the public, and it's a fair question to ask. Whether the media is within its limits or whether it is transgressing the limits. But then, my question is, who decides? Who decides what is the limit? And who tells me what to do and what not to do? That is my question. There is no regulation. And, you have to trust me as a reporter when I say this is what has happened. If you don't trust me, it is your problem. But I will report what I think has happened. So, but one more thing I would like to say as an observation, that as individuals, we may have done 2 good things, 10 bad things, whatever. Here we are concerned about the role of the media as a whole. And when we take that into account, I'm very sure it's also part of the public perception that the role of media has changed drastically, and there is a reason to feel concerned.
So there is a divided opinion here. Nandita was a little made a negative, pejorative expression about the media's role today, but the other 2 people took a rather positive note, although with certain kind of exceptions. That's the way it should be. Then quickly we'll go over to the corrective measure. Can we take, like In England today, it's been discussed what regulator can be there, independent regulator, independent from the government and independent from the media houses. Can we have a similar regulator in India?
The reason, just going back to the reason I took a strong is because I've been a practicing journalist since the last 2-3 years. I've gone into fiction as a writer. So I can look back and, criticize more positively in a more healthy manner because, as you said, there is a tendency to degenerate. I've noticed this among So therefore, there's a tendency in the current, in the last 5-6 years, I've noticed the style of reporting, the trend, the journalism has changed a lot. And that is my concern. And the reason why I say this is so that it can go back on track. Now coming back to what are the corrective measures we can do, I think my first gut feeling is to have a entrance exam for TV channels. We just have met, I don't know how many news for, there are the main channels and there are the sub-channels and there's channel for every gully, nukkad, and you don't know what is happening. And everyone is up there trying to come with one sensational story than the other. So that is not news. It just irritates me. Sometimes I stop reading the newspaper for 1 week at a time because there's so much of crass and crap reported. Sometimes it just, earlier one read the newspapers, one read magazines to inform oneself so that it was more informative. Now it's become very degenerative. So I think first thing, there should be a minimum ethics, entrance, and skill level to check how many, channels can be reporting mainstream or otherwise news. And then we should go ahead. Of course, then there are the other, the other thing where the government should also have certain thing. But my first thing is all these 60, 70 channels we see, at least we should have 5 good news channels, each giving the other a healthy competition. And each of these channels should be suitably, duly qualified.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we discuss about controlling media, I should say when Supreme Court gave media the freedom, or press freedom is deriving it from freedom of speech, media was expected of using self-regulation. And as Mr. Mahapatra pointed out a few minutes before, that he does according to the editorial policy of his company. Similarly, every news house or every media house should use maximum self-restraint. That self-restraint is not there these days, I do admit. But I somehow also at the same time feel that more number of news channels, more number of newspapers, by giving more number of issues, by bringing more number of issues to public, they have made the administration, the government, the society more aware of the problems. So we should not put a spanner. We should not stop. We should not try to throttle media completely. So my point is this self-regulation by media should be encouraged, and some ethical codes should also be introduced so that media cannot go beyond its brief.
No, I completely agree with that. In fact, self-regulation is the only option available because there is no possibility that the media in any country, whether they like it or not, no media would agree to any kind of external censorships, least of all by the government of the day, because we are at war almost on a daily basis. So basically for the television channels now we have NBA, and I think that's a very good effort because what is happening now is this NBA takes into account complaints in regard to reports aired by the channels, and it's much more powerful than Press Council, much more, because we know what Press Council of India is all about. So let's not discuss it. Let us not discuss paper tigers. No, they can get away. Yes, they can get, anybody can get away with murder as far as Press Council of India is concerned. But here NBA, because the body is constituted with the help of channel people who run the channels, the big bosses are part of the show. Therefore, there is some kind of a regulatory mechanism already in place. But the only point I'm trying to stress all the time is that media is big business. And people who have invested crores and crores of rupees in a channel or a newspaper have something to defend. They want certainly certain things not to go to the public. But fortunately, there are competitors. And therefore, because of this acute kind of competition that is taking place in the media, the truth cannot be covered up. It cannot be hidden away somewhere. It will come out in the public and people will come to know of it. That's a good thing about it. But we're more concerned about the methods, wherein we bring in the question of regulation. And the methods, I personally feel, even as an insider, that the methods adopted by journalists to get at the truth is sometimes not only unethical, but also it targets individuals very aggressively, attacks their privacy, and does not give the person targeted an opportunity to defend himself or herself. And in 1 minute, you can destroy the reputation of an individual, which he or she has been able to build up over a period of 50 years, 60 years. These are issues which need regulation. We need to punish people for taking, it is like taking law into your own hand and getting away with murder. That is not allowed. But if the government thinks in terms of controlling the media, then it's a daydream. They can't do it. Simply, they can't do it.
I just want to add a few points to this, what Mr. Mahapatra just said, that when something is published or something is aired in television networks, it immediately hampers the reputation of the person, damages his reputation. But there is a provision in Indian Penal Code, 499, defamation. If the person concerned feels defamed, then he can go to court and get justice. The only problem is, by the time he gets justice, his grandson will be there to receive the order.
Okay, then we come to the final proposition, whether social media is a panacea or it's a disaster as far as a functioning democracy is concerned. Over to the panel.
Well, the social media, started out as a kind of, I wouldn't call it a help or anything, maybe, but today I think it's a disaster. I think it's a disaster. It can be good. Look at the Jessica Lal case. If we take out individual cases, things, so many things have happened. Even the recent case in Palghar in Bombay, in Mumbai, after Balasaheb Thackeray's death, what happened. So, but I think, we need to put a certain restraint on the social media. Because after all, it is something you're dealing with public. And whatever is individual views, there has to be a certain amount of restraint. Because it can really damage. It can help also. I'm not saying it cannot help. But I've seen more damages done with the social networking than help. And also, social media, in a way, is disastrous for basically it doesn't help the mainstream journalism. It adds already to their ill reputation more.
So, ladies and gentlemen, bad or good, we cannot stop social media by any standard. But social media has got its positives also. If we see the Arab uprising, the mightiest despots who could not be dethroned, it is only by social media the youth came together and upstaged those despots. So every system has got negatives and positives. So we should not simply throw away social media saying that it is a disaster. But I will never subscribe to the idea that social media is a disaster. It has got its enormous power because a common man has become more powerful in disseminating his views, and it goes with a lightning speed all over the world, what he thinks good about the society. And secondly, of course, the bad aspect is there because anything wrong goes, it goes viral immediately in the internet. So we should also the same. And second thing which I want to highlight is those who have access to social media. Many of the users of social media are not educated enough. Just because they have got access to internet, they have got just access to computers, so they are writing whatever comes to their mind. And if it is going against any community, against any group, against any section of the society, that is damaging, no doubt about it. But at the same time, we cannot undermine the importance of social media like Facebook and Twitter.
I also agree with his observations that you cannot wish away things. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, they are here to stay and they will continue. But my only issue is with regard to the authenticity, veracity of the user. You know, for example, we get a lot of anonymous users of the Facebook and Twitter, which should be banned. This I very strongly advocate, that the Facebook or Twitter or any form of social media must ensure that people who are taking part in it, people who are posting on it, have to be identified. Once you do that, you are free to say anything you like. Otherwise, what is happening is, in a conflict situation, a rumor can appear to be the gospel of truth and incite violence. That has happened a number of times. It can unite people. It can pit one group of people against the other and lead to Assam, number of cases. Assam, and then, you know, somebody makes a film on Prophet Muhammad that gets circulated through social media and creates unrest across the world. You know, this kind of things will continue to happen if we do not ensure that the people who are taking part in it, people who are sending posts on it, are identified. If we do not stop the anonymous users, social media can really become a disaster. That is my greatest fear.
Listen to our panelists. I was supposed to give some concluding remarks, sum up the discussion, but I have been told by the organizers that we are running short of time, so we need to conclude early. Because the other sessions, we started late, so other sessions will have to follow. So now a brief interlude for question answers for the session. From the house, any questions? Yeah. Anyone?